Good evening and welcome to Ukraine Brief on TVP World. It's been 1,394 days since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. On Thursday morning, President Zelenskyy arrived for a meeting of the European Council where a decision is expected to be made on the use of frozen Russian assets to provide Ukraine with a multi-billion-euro loan to support its war effort. The meeting centers largely on the European Commission's proposal to tap frozen Russian central bank assets, most of which are parked in a Belgian clearinghouse as collateral for a major loan package meant for Ukraine. The idea, however, has raised concerns from the Belgian government, as well as other countries like Italy, that are showing reservations about the risks involved. Other leaders, including German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, have been staunch supporters of the European Commission's plan, arguing that using frozen Russian assets to finance Ukraine's war effort provides a more viable solution than raising the EU's public debt. Having spoken with the Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever on the sidelines during meetings about the need for Belgian support, President Zelenskyy stressed that Ukraine could face a foreign aid deficit of up to 50 billion euros if a financing agreement fails to be reached. Without financial support from Europe, Ukraine could face an aid shortfall that sharply reduces its drone production.
Because this is really a threat. What is the threat? Well, there will definitely be a deficit of 45 to 50 billion euros. Exactly, the deficit could be more. We don't know exactly how events will develop next year. We are doing everything to end the war in the near future. If this loan does not arrive, Ukraine's drone production will be reduced significantly. For comparison, if today, in terms of cheap drones used on the battlefield, we have a rather competitive number of such drones with Russia, then without aid, it will be much lower.
While President Zelenskyy calls for increased European financial support to ensure the sufficient supply of weapons for the Ukrainian army, a Ukrainian commander calls for reforms within the army. In an article published in one of Ukraine's broadly read newspapers, The New Voice of Ukraine, and written while actively fighting on the front line, Ukrainian commander Andriy Belitsky gave name to what he calls a war hangover. He says it's the reason the Ukrainian army has caused so many strategic mistakes on the battlefield. In Belitsky's view, as enthusiasm over frontline victories fizzles, the Ukrainian army has become too dependent on high-tech military equipment rather than investing in the training and specialization of Ukrainian military personnel. In addition, Belitsky calls for the sidelining of so-called paper generals, basically anyone who has never actively participated in live combat. Instead of these paper generals, Belitsky would like to see the promotion of capable young officers with tried and true battle experience. As President Trump struggles to secure a peace deal to bring the war to an end in Ukraine, Russian officials head out to Miami to discuss changes. Suggestions are surfacing from the Kremlin that U.S.-Russia relations are now in disarray. Senior officials told Politico that representatives of the Trump administration, led by Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, are expected to brief Russian negotiators this weekend in Miami on the results of the latest rounds of negotiations between the United States and Ukraine in Berlin. With Moscow showing little willingness to compromise demands to end its war, Washington has been pressing Kyiv to accept territorial concessions and security arrangements. This week, Russian President Vladimir Putin reiterated his goal of reclaiming what he called Russia's historic lands, while Zelenskyy has said that Ukrainian officials are also expected to hold negotiations in Miami. There are currently no plans for a trilateral meeting between the U.S., Ukraine and Russia. Russian attacks continued across Ukraine overnight, with drones hitting residential and energy infrastructure, with artillery and glide bombs targeting towns in the eastern Donetsk and southern Kherson regions. According to regional administrations, at least 5 people have been killed and more than 20 wounded. Russian strikes hit Sumy, a city in northern Ukraine, damaging apartment buildings, blowing out windows, sparking fires and wounding 1 civilian. The strikes didn't stop with the city. Russia also shelled settlements in the greater Sumy region near the Russian border, mostly with artillery and drones. Another drone attack struck Kryvyi Rih, hitting residential areas and damaging apartment buildings and homes. leaving 4 people wounded. In a separate strike on Zaporizhia, an apartment building was damaged, but no injuries were reported. A drone attack on Cherkasy damaged about 15 private homes, many vehicles and critical infrastructure, leaving 6 people wounded. In the Odessa region, a Russian drone hit a school, damaging the facade and affecting parts of the interior. 1 person was wounded and the school has been temporarily closed. Overnight, Russia fired 82 drones at Ukraine. In the frontline Donetsk region, 3 people were wounded and 4 wounded in Druskivka and Konstantinivka. In the Kherson region, 2 civilians were killed and 6 wounded as Russian forces continued daily attacks on the Ukrainian-controlled western bank of the river with artillery, drones and glide bombs. And as we go to air this evening, a Russian drone strike hit a key bridge on the Odessa-Reni highway, killing a woman and injuring her 3 children, Ukrainian authorities say. Traffic on the highway has been completely blocked. This footage of the moment of the attack is circulating on social media now. And that's all for Ukraine Brief this evening. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more on TVP World and tvpworld.com. Goodbye.